Hello again, everybody. Today I have a video on some of the maintenance items that you could easily replace on your own on your Honda PCX 150. Mine's a 2013, and some of the things that I've already started to do. You can see there's right there some screws, 7 of them that hold the air cleaner on, and that was the first thing that I took off. And just to show you the old air cleaner compared to the new. So this scooter has 6,800 miles, and by the look of that air cleaner, I don't think it was ever replaced. So just wanted to show you that was the first thing. The second thing, I took off the transmission case. In order to do that, you have to remove the rubber pad, and then there's 7 screws that are on the top, and there's also a screw that goes beyond the side of the fairing, and the red fairing for along the bottom. And you have to remove that because there is one bolt that goes back there. You can see it at the top, and when you have that fairing in place, it makes it really difficult in order to remove this outer case. So I removed it just to make it easier on myself, and when I did, it was pretty much coated in dust. So dust and dirt and grime and whatever else you want to call it. A lot of it had to do with the rollers, which I did purchase a new set. This has already been all cleaned out. It was completely covered in dust, and there was quite a few flat spots on the rollers. I mean, it wasn't terrible. Some of them were better than others, but it probably could have ran fine for a little while longer, but I decided to replace them anyways. Cleaned it all out. Keep in mind, when you take your bike, and this particular bike, from talking to the previous owner, he took it to Honda and they do a point inspection, and that doesn't mean that they replaced or cleaned or did anything like that of the sort. They basically took a look at it, and if it didn't look wore, then they moved on. So this bike, the previous owner had given me the paperwork from the Honda dealer, and it basically had a belt replacing and a inspection. And what was kind of sad about it is, once I took this off, it was loaded with all kinds of dirt all over the new belt. The belt was actually slipping a little bit because the Honda dealer actually didn't take the time to clean it out. They just basically put a new belt on it. So the new belt is right here, and I actually have both, and they're exactly the same height. When you put them flat on a surface, you can see that they're both identical. So this is the new belt, this is the old, and it's barely worn. So I ordered a new belt anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it, and I'll keep the one that was in there as a replacement if I need it. Something else I bought a new spark plug. The spark plug looks like it hadn't been replaced. That was supposed to be done at like 5,000 miles, and that's actually done right there. There's one screw that holds that spark plug cover on, and when you remove it, right around the corner from there is where the spark plug is. So just make sure when you order the plug, and of course you can order them from Honda, or they also make them through other companies, but I prefer to put all Honda. As you can see, all the parts that I ordered actually from a Honda dealer online, just to save the money in tax. After going to my local Honda dealer, it ended up being cheaper for me to just ordering them online. So you can see that's the slide set part number if you're interested in part numbers. And as far as the part number for the spark plug is that bottom of the two that starts with the C. This is the element part number. You can see 172. And then I also purchased some new clutch weights. So those I've already taken the clutch off, took the top off, and you can see the little screw that holds it on. Once you put pressure on this and put it down, but you can see I put the new pads on. Now there are people who have gone out and purchased a aftermarket clutch. I just wanted to put all the original parts back in it. So you basically, you know, take off these little fasteners, and then this plate comes off, and then after that you got to take the springs out, and then you put the new weights in. So just to show you what the old ones had, a little bit of wear. So I probably could have sanded them and used them a little bit longer, but again, it's not like I want to take this transmission case off all the time. I figured I'll just go ahead and replace them now. So that's part number for those if you're interested. And I also cleaned off, you can see the variator, like I was saying, is all clean. I wanted to show you this too. This is one of the things, this is the ram plate, which goes on the back of the variator and then slides in, which once I get to that point I'll show you how it all goes back together. But this slide here, you can hear it. This was the only one I haven't replaced yet. So if you ever start your bike up and you start to hear this little rattling noise, more than likely that's what you're hearing. You're hearing all three of these, because all three of mine were loose. So if you take that one off, now these two are the new ones, and you can hear how they're not making any noise. So that'll clear up for just $2.95. It basically makes your ram plates sound like brand new, and that's the slide set. So these are like $2.95. I went ahead and I cleaned out the clutch bell. Again, it was just like so much debris and dust and everything, you know, because the actual clutch started to have little filings that all fell, black filings. You can actually see them on the ground where just, I don't know what that's made of, asbestos or whatever material. I know they make it out of stronger stuff like Kevlar now. I'm not sure if it's a Kevlar material or what it is, but it just starts to make a mess all over the inside. So once I clean that all up, clean the bell out, and the bell goes on after I put this on, and it should run 100% better than what it did before. Like I said, when you started it up, you could hear that little rattling noise, which it'll definitely get fixed once I put the rollers back with the ram plate and the new slides. And then it'll be able to breathe much better with the new filter on it as well. So as far as taking the bolts off, nuts, as far as taking the two nuts off, the nut off of the variator and then the nut off of the clutch. It's a 22 millimeter for the variator, and then it's a 19 for the clutch. I ended up going out and buying a torque wrench, so I figured why not just get one, and then I wouldn't have to worry about, you know, using that tool. And that one has about 180 pounds of torque, so it's not going to put out a super amount where you could, you know, basically harm your nuts and bolts. It'll definitely not put too much pressure on those. So once you go ahead and remove those nuts and put them back on again, even if you torque it a little bit extra, I mean, the most you're going to put out is like 180 pounds with that, where I think it's actually much less than that. But I've seen some of these where they put out like 600 pounds of torque, and that's quite a bit, 3 times more than what this one does. So you could either use a braking arm, or you could use one of these, and it's just easier to have one of these. I've been using it for years, using one for years. I actually had a electric one that I traded in for this one, and this one seems to work good. It took them out, took off every nut that I tried without a problem. So I just wanted to show you. I'm gonna put some of this stuff back together again, and then I'll show you where we stand. But so far so good. So I just put that back on, basically using a 1.5 inch socket, and You see right here. So it's all back together again. You got to put pressure, so you need help, a second person who puts the pressure down on this, and then it will allow you to put this nut back on. And it's all set, so I'll go ahead and install that. So just wanted to show you all a quick trick that I learned from somebody else online. Once you put the clutch back on, put the belt on, pull some tension while it's still off, and put just a little strap around there, a zip tie, and it just makes it a lot easier for you to bunch it up there. So when you go to install the top portion, it goes on real easy right on those splines. So just put the belt on the clutch, squeeze it real tight, put a tie, obviously make sure you're on either side of where that bolt is going to go, and then just hold it down. It makes it easy for you to put it back on. Alright, I'm going to put the bolts back on. Sorry, put the nuts back on. Alright, so I got the 19mm on right now. Just make sure I got it going the right way. And then once you're done with that, and we're good to go. Let's make sure. We're good. So I went ahead and just put the air filter on there just for the time being. I just want to start it up and see how it sounds. So you all see, if I did what I was supposed to, then we should be okay. So I'm not hearing any kind of things bouncing around. It's actually pretty quiet since I have the cover off. So let's put a piece of tape to hold that on for a minute. So we'll go ahead and turn the bike off, and I'll start to put the covers on. Okay, so we have it all back together again, and of course I had to wipe it up, put the screws back on that, put all the covers back on, and just going to move the kickstand up so we can start it. Very cool safety feature, by the way. And go ahead and start it up. Sounds good. So the next video I shoot will be of just changing the coolant and changing the oil, as well as changing the oil in the rear end too. So that only takes like an ounce or two, and I want to say it's about almost 75 or 80% of a quart of oil. I got to go buy some Honda oil and some Honda coolant. Of course, I want to put those back in, but sounds pretty good. So that'll end this video. And again, take my advice when you take your bike over to Honda. Keep in mind that they're only going to do an inspection. They're not going to clean anything for you. They're not going to replace anything that is, you know, not 100% wore out. So I firmly believe that at 7,000 miles, everything I did, it needed to have done. So others will argue and say it didn't need it yet, but since the bike is new to me, I wanted to make sure that I'm inspecting all those parts to see if the previous owner had done anything that I needed to change, or if something was loose, because you never know when you buy a bike from somebody else used. You know, they may have done some of the work themselves and didn't do something correct, and I'd rather find out taking it apart than at 60 miles an hour. So in this case, there were quite a few of the bolts that were loose on the covers, and of course they weren't torqued correctly, and it just kind of disappointed the way that Honda did it with the belt, just putting a new belt in it and not cleaning anything, and it's exactly the opposite of what I like to do. So everything is cool. Next part is I'm going to actually replace the tires. The front tires and the rear tire both are from 2012, and they don't have a whole lot of traction yet, especially the front one. You can definitely see that, you know, there isn't a whole lot of tread compared to those. So I'm going to install the brand new ones. Of course, I bought the same tires that are on it, which are the Michelin City Grip tires, and lots of different people recommend these over the original ones that Honda put on. So I'm assuming that a Honda put these particular tires on, though, if they're from 2012, but I could be wrong. But that's the end of this video. The next video, like I said, I'll be going over the coolant, the oil, and the tires, possibly all in one video, or just do a whole nother separate video of those items. But thank you very much, and if you like what you see, subscribe. Have a great day.